Hello, welcome back to Recently Played, and it's that time of year again where we get to arbitrarily rank our favorite albums. I always enjoy doing these lists. I think it's a good time. It's a fun way to kind of reflect on a year of listening to music, and I think this is just, it's just fun. Yeah, it's just fun. So this year I decided to turn it up a little bit. We're going to go for 100 albums. I'm going to give you my top 100 albums of 2021. So you know what? Just sit back, relax, and if you need some new music to listen to, here is 100 albums that I enjoyed this year. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alrighty, at number 100, Cavalcade by Black Midi. I thought this was a really fun, messy, psychedelic, kind of crazy prog rock album. Really great classic prog rock vibes as a fan of Mars Volta, or even, older than that, King Crimson. I found a lot to like about this album. I thought it was really cool. I think I would have liked that really classic, kind of like Geddy Lee, Mars Volta, high-pitched vocals in the really epic parts of this. But, for what it is, I think it's really cool. Great addition to a lot of, although I wouldn't call this a post-punk album, I think it certainly had a lot of those post-punk vibes, and I think it certainly fits in with a lot of those great UK post-punk stuff that we got this year. All right, at number 99, When the Smoke Rises by Mustafa. What a beautiful, heartfelt folk album, straight from the heart, talking about community, talking about friends that he's lost. Just absolutely gorgeous, very, very moving album. I like this one. Alrighty, at number 98, Revenge of the Visitors by Coaltar of the Deepers. Very fun shoegazy punk album, even though if it starts off like a kind of wild metal album, it's certainly much more of a shoegazy punk album, and I think it's very solid. I think it's a lot of fun, and this one's a good time. Number 97, Yeti Season by the L. Michaels Affair. Another awesome kind of vintage groove album, mostly instrumental. Really fun, lots of great inspiration from world music. If you're a fan of Khruangbin and you haven't heard this album, what are you doing? What are you doing? Don't watch this video. Go listen to this album right now, because it is exactly what you like. Just so well executed. Really, really fun, solid album. I like this one. 96, Hotels by Jazmine Sullivan. I love the kind of honesty in this album, the kind of, reflections on sexuality and empowerment are very interesting and moving. I thought this was a very solid R&B album as well. Just really well performed, really well executed. These songs are well written. They, come straight from the heart. I found this to be really cool. I like this one. Gonna end up finishing all of these with just, I like this one. I like this one. Okay, Black to the Future by Sons of Kemet coming in at 95. This is a super fun jazz album, totally bumping. It's kind of obviously lots of inspiration from African music. It's kind of hard for me to pin down exactly what subgenre of jazz this falls into, but nonetheless, it's a lot of fun, a lot of great subject matter pertaining towards freedom and liberation, and fighting for justice. I think this is a very has a lot of energy into it. It's constantly moving forward, barreling towards that goal, not backing down. I thought this was a really cool one. Okay, 94, the Asymptotical World EP by Yves Tumor. Yves Tumor totally crushed it last year. with his album, and then he crushed it again with another EP. You know, he was making for years kind of more ambient experimental stuff, and his takeover of the rock world has just been so flawlessly executed. He is by far making some of the coolest indie rock, and I'm very excited to see how he continues this legacy. Number 3, Paper Route iLLUMINATi by Young Dolph, the late great Young Dolph. It's kind of strange because when this album came out, the first thing I wrote about it is that it seems like this is him ushering in the next generation of young trap stars with the large amount of features on this album from lesser known trap artists, and it does feel like kind of a passing of the torch, and obviously he didn't know he was gonna pass away so soon after its release, but it does, you know, I'm sure they're gonna release a posthumous album and for years after he's gone, but I think, you know, as the last album that he made while he was alive, this does seem like a great kind of send-off of his legacy. It is a great kind of final gift to the world, and I think this is a really fun, solid, very long, but you know, it's quite effortless to listen to. It's a very solid, long trap album, and if you like Young Dolph and you like listening to trap, then this is just a great time all around. Okay, number 92, Cozy by Chelmico. I love Chelmico. I think they're awesome. I like Rachel and Mamiko. Their album Maze was one of my favorite albums last year. Their album Fishing was one of my favorite albums the year before that. This is just a great continuation of that weird and wacky sound that they do so well. Another super fun short album from them. Okay, number 91, Love Broadcast Aircraft by New Pants. The veteran Chinese synth rock band gives us a very solid album with a lot of, you know, really fun melodramatic feels in there. This is just a really solid kind of disco inspired synth rock album. Feels very timeless, very classic. Yeah, I like this one. Okay, at number 90, Sound Ancestors by Madlib, featuring arrangements and production by Fortet. You know, this was going into 2021, one of my most anticipated albums of the year, and I like that it's a solid instrumental beat album. You know, I don't return to it as much as I thought I would. Maybe it has waned on me a little bit, but regardless, I think this is a very solid instrumental hip-hop electronic album from Madlib. You know, one of the most iconic hip-hop producers around. Yeah, this is a no-brainer. If you like beats, listen to this album. Okay, number 89, For the First Time by Black Country New Road. Wow, what a exciting, solid debut. I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Black Midi, about the whole, you know, this being an exciting year for post-punk, and this certainly falls into that with another very kind of proggy, very weird, very fun and wacky, but very post-punk, very energetic album. And you know, this is a fun one. It takes a lot of left turns. It's pretty crazy, and I think it's another good time. All right, at number 88, Crossover by Dua Saleh. You know, this is a super mystical, kind of mysterious, groovy dance pop experimental album. A lot of the songs on this are quite different from each other on the surface, but really kind of go together really well, and you know, I think it's a very groovy, fun, solid listen overall, and yeah, I think this is a good one. All right, at number 87, Drunk Tank Pink by Shame. You know, another solid post-punk album. This one is certainly more punky than the other two I mentioned. Super rockin', super hard hitting, but actually a lot of really cool kind of alternative rock ideas in there. It's not just all, you know, super punky stuff. It's, you know, a lot of really cool creative production in there, a lot of really interesting ideas. I think this album has a great sense of dynamics as well. Yeah, you know, this one's a very fun listen. It's a good journey. It's a good time, yeah. Number 86, Sour by Olivia Rodrigo. You know, this is a really easy album to rip on. I was ripping on it a lot when it first came out just because of, you know, how corny or tacky it is as a breakup album, and, you know, maybe that can get a little exhaustive. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is very solidly produced, and Olivia Rodrigo is a great performer. She really does that kind of pessimistic character very well. I kind of like her cynicism in her lyrics as being that ex-Disney star or Disney star that's, you know, just a little angry, a little bit more real, a little more raw. I think that's really cool, and I think she's a very fresh voice into the pop world. So, you know, at the end of the day, I like Sour. I think it's a good album. Alrighty, at 85, 333 by Tinashe. I did not expect Tinashe to go into a hyperpop sort of experimental electronic direction with her music, being, you know, a very, very strong R&B vocalist. But you know what? She makes it work on this one, and it's really cool album. I think it fits in very well with Snow Allegra, or even, you know, kind of Tyler the Creator's more hip-hop, R&B experimental style. You know, I think this is a very cool, interesting, unique album. And it's quite well executed as well. All right, at number 84, we have End of the Earth by MAVI. Just absolutely beautiful hip-hop lyricism. Like, this is just wonderful, beautiful hip-hop music. I think everything MAVI has done is fantastic, and especially the first track on this mini album is absolutely beautiful. It's such a showstopper. He just has such a great ability to pour his heart out into his lyrics, and it's so visible. And you know, any bit of music we get to hear from him is an absolute pleasure. Definitely looking forward to the next one. At number 83, New Dawn EP by Wata Igarashi. Very solid, kind of minimal techno album. Very hard hitting, very meditative at the same time. You know, just very, very solid overall. This is just absolute fire bumping techno music. What more do you want? Okay, at number 82, Pray for Haiti by Mach-Hommy. You know, like everything from the Griselda collective recently, this is just another bulletproof rap album. So solid, and I love the kind of cultural context of this album, and that he's, you know, educating you about his ethnicity, his background. He's educating you about Haiti, about its history, and really speaking to something that's really meaningful to him within the context of a very solid rap album. I think this is a very good one. Okay, at number 81, By the Time I Get to Phoenix by Injury Reserve. You know, just as a piece of music, this is just a really beautiful, moving album, and that this was the first album released since the member Groggs of Injury Reserve passed away, and this album really captures grief well, in that it's just this really trippy, crazy, jumbled up, you know, ball of emotions in your head, and this album really feels so melted and deconstructed and glitchy and crazy. And it's, you know, when you're going through a traumatic time like that, or recovering from a traumatic experience, that's kind of how you feel. All right, at number 80, Koe by Chiaki Sato. Kinoko Teikoku is one of my favorite Japanese rock bands, and the lead vocalist Chiaki Sato is just an absolute pleasure to listen to. She's a huge part of why I love the band, and I think while it's still relatively in its early stages, her solo career is quite interesting as well, going for a more adult, more mature sound, less of a rock band kind of sound. But this is just a really great kind of mature pop album with some really tight instrumentals, a lot of really great tones, very raw sounds. Just great arrangements and instrumentals. This is just a very solid Japanese pop album, more so on the adult contemporary side. All right, at number 7, Promises by Floating Points, Pharoah Sanders, and the London Symphony Orchestra. What a cool album. What a great idea to get all these people in to make this really awesome collaboration. I think this is a really interesting piece of music. Kind of reminds me of like Steve Reich, or even like something William Basinski or Brian Eno would do. Just a really cool ambient project. I think this album goes through a lot of cool development as you go through it, as you realize like, oh, it's just going to be this repeating loop the entire time, but there's so much that they do with it. I think it's a really interesting piece, and obviously Pharoah Sanders is an absolute legend, and it's great to have this kind of exploration and hearing him put out this really cool, still very relevant cosmic jazz album so late in his career. All right, at number 78, Smiling with No Teeth by Genesis Owusu. I don't even know how to begin describing this album, but it is very cool for sure. A lot of great influences in this one. I could describe it as rap rock, but it's certainly not like Rage Against the Machine or anything like that. It's a lot more closer to Gorillaz in that it combines a lot of elements of electronic music and rock and hip hop together, and just very solid, cool album. If you like Beck or Gorillaz or stuff like that, I'd say that this is definitely up your alley. All right, number 77, Temporary Highs in the Violet Skies by Snow Allegra. This album is super cool. Like I said before, it's kind of, continuing that sort of movement for that trippy, almost, I throw around hyperpop so much, but a little bit of hyperpop in there, but just that trippy experimental neo-soul R&B sound that, Tyler, the Creator, obviously was popularizing. I think this is just a great push for that, and I'd like to see more albums like this for sure, because it's just such a cool underexplored territory. I feel that a lot of R&B vocalists can definitely do really well, and this one is no exception. I think this is a really cool album. Number 76, A Liquid Breakfast by AUDREY NUNA. I think AUDREY NUNA is really cool. She's a lot of fun to listen to, and she's got a lot of range. She's a great vocalist. She's a great rapper, and, within hip-hop and pop, I think she's got a lot of potential, and I think this is a very strong album from her, and I look forward to more. Number 75, To Hell With It by Pink Pantheress, the viral pop star who took the world by storm overnight. I think this is a very cool album. I think Gen Z has got really great taste in music, if anything. They seem to like a lot of stuff that's genuinely really good, and a lot of stuff that's genuinely not so good, but this is certainly a very good album, and I think the influence of drum and bass and hyperpop blends really well into this kind of very honest and soulful, sort of coming of age album, or talking about albums of the end of your adolescence and the beginning of your adulthood. Very nice mini album. I'm again excited for more from Pink Pantheress. Alrighty, at number 73, Time About by Yukika. Since City Pop took over the internet however many years ago, There's been so many new artists trying to do city pop, but Yukika is just so solid in her commitment to the genre. She's just making super fun, super well executed city pop or 80s inspired pop music. And it's cool to see a K-pop star not only just take that influence, but also really commit to it. She really commits to the shtick, and I salute her for it. I think she's awesome. I think this album is some of her best work, and she's killing it. Number 72, Happier Than Ever by Billie Eilish. I gotta say, this is some of my favorite work I've ever heard from Billie Eilish. I think this is a wonderful, beautiful album. As you know, if you're into a lot of solid, mature, dark, alternative rock music, I think this is just a very solid album. I think there's a lot of people, who are really into the indie scene that maybe didn't take Billie Eilish that serious before, and I think this is an album certainly worth listening to if you've never actually given Billie Eilish a fair listen, because I think this is a very solid, mature album that is very meaningful, and some really honest reflections as well. Very well produced, very well put together. I would recommend this to any Radiohead fan or whatever. I think this is a really good album. Alrighty, at number 71, Juno by Remy Wolf. This is a loud, fun, rockin' pop time. Remy Wolf is a lot of fun. I love the kind of chanting energy of this. I think this is some music to get you pumped up. This is a fun, in-your-face pop album about not caring what other people think. This is just this is great. Yeah, there's very little to not like about this album. I think it's a lot of fun. All right, at number 70, Bo Jackson by Boldy James and The Alchemist. This is just as real as it gets, some solid hip hop. I love, all of these albums coming out of, I'm going to get into more so when I talk more about albums that were produced by Navy Blue this year, but also with Griselda. Like, I love these just really kind of soft beats, these really very classic raw hip-hop beats that don't take up too much of the mix and feel almost like a little bit light and just really leave a lot of space open for the MC to really shine. And I think there's just such more of a focus on lyricism and flow, and just really puts that spotlight on the MC. And I think this is just such a solid, classic hip-hop album. This one is for the real rap fans in there. None of that trendy shit. They don't care about being on the top 40 charts or any of that. This is just, solid, real as it gets hip-hop. Okay, at number 69, Glow On by Turnstile. This is a very solid hardcore punk kind of metal-ish album, but as a hard rock album, I think this is very solid. But I think there's this kind of great almost indie pop influence in that this is a very happy album. There's nothing particularly too angry about it. It's almost exuding happiness, which is really cool. And there's a lot of nice kind of dreamy interludes to give it that vibe. And, I think it's a really cool concept for a hard rock or metal album. Very well executed. I thought this was very cool, interesting, and just a lot of fun. Number 68, Reflection Overdrive by Crystal. I was talking about that commitment to a style. Well, this is just that on the max. This is just that fun, kind of corny 80s instrumental production, but just done so well. It's very solid as an instrumental electronic album, but obviously it's much more focused on that kind of corny 80s vintage production. And if you're into that kind of synth wave, as people call it, or anything like that, then this album is definitely for you. Yeah, lots of fun. Number 67, Pool by Ski Mask. You know, Ski Mask is totally an auteur of that ambient techno kind of drum and bass style, and this is just another opus from him. This is just, if you wanted more, here's more. Just wonderful, really beautiful, spacey electronic music. Really cool. You know, what more could you want from him? This is great. Alrighty, at number 66, 30 by Adele. You know, come on, it's Adele. What more do you want? Like, but yeah, for real, I think this is a very solid album. I love the kind of Motown and soul, more oriented tracks, and some really beautiful, honest, personal reflections. You know, I think it's cool that to hear such a megastar, you know, confessing that she feels a lot of the same emotions that all of us feel, and it's quite beautiful. You know, I think it's just a really wonderful reflection. Yeah, and again, rock solid production, great songwriting. I love some of the more, you know, experimental or longer sections that are more about the experience. Yeah, I think it's really moving, and, you know, again, just those powerhouse vocals. How could you ever get tired of that? Like, yeah, it's Adele. Alrighty, at number 65, Rare Forever by Leon Vynehall. You know, Leon Vynehall creates really beautiful moments, and then he contrasts it some really bumpin' lit moments, and his albums are just overall a lot of fun to listen to, and this one's no exception. It's just super dynamic, super edgy, super fun, a lot of really great builds, you know, just very futuristic, some very solid, very explorative electronic music. At number 64, Drum Temple by Omar. You know, this is such an apt title for this album because it is a drum temple. This feels like I walked into a temple and I was just surrounded by people playing drums for a while, and you know, this is just a lot of fun to listen to, really gets you in the zone, you know, just totally bumping, really good time. Yeah, if you want to hear some sweet beats, you know, a lot of really kind of tribal inspired beats, lots of you know, drums. It's a good time. Yeah. Okay, number 63, SLNM by Saru Nome. This is a very fun blend of hyperpop and Japanese hip-hop. You know, super edgy and futuristic. I can guarantee you probably haven't heard anything quite like this. Really cool, really fun. A lot of hints of J-pop in there as well, but like certainly very edgy and futuristic. And, you know, very original and unique. Yeah. All right, at number 62, Black Encyclopedia of the Air by More Mother. I thought this was a very, really interesting, experimental kind of hip-hop sort of spoken word poetry album. I think this is some really interesting reflections on some kind of, you know, social and political subject matter. And, you know, I think it's quite moving and quite, you know, quite expressive in how, you know, kind of futuristic it is. It really reminded me of the Flying Lotus album, Until the Quiet Comes. Really fit in with that kind of dark, you know, experimental jazz, sort of neo-soul vibe of that album. Really had this great kind of avant-garde feel to it, but really also kind of a little bit of that hip-hop, you know, trippy hip-hop, trip-hop production as well. Okay, at number 61, Afrique Victime by Ndo Mokhtar. This is a very, very solid kind of, you know, roots African rock album. I think this is just such a great sounding album, and how just, you know, raw and authentic it sounds, and just absolutely phenomenal guitar playing. You know, a lot of people say they look at African musicians and they'll see them playing the same instruments, but just in a completely different way that you never would have thought of. And that certainly applies to this album. Some really incredible guitar solos, wonderful desert blues, just fantastic overall. If you ever got into the awesome tapes from Africa or the Habibi Funk stuff, this is certainly up your alley. Very enjoyable, very fun. Alrighty, at number 60, Candy Racer by Kyary Pamyu Pamyu. Yeah, I think this is a solid one from both producer Yasutaka Nakata and Kyary Pamyu Pamyu. Just a great kind of almost return to form. We see Yasutaka Nakata kind of dialing back on the EDM stuff and kind of going back to where he was more when he was making, as it's called, Shibuya Kei style music, which is kind of like a jazzy, electronic pop sort of subgenre. It's a very kind of loosely defined term. You know, I think the childish, youthful vibe of Kyary Pamyu Pamyu really shines as well. And, you know, this is just another solid one. Everything I like about Kyary is certainly visible in this album. And, you know, it's another solid one. Alrighty, at 59, And Then Life Was Beautiful by Neo. Just, you know, what a beautiful album about, you know, falling apart and getting yourself back together. Just so relatable, so honest, so genuine, but absolutely, you know, rock solid production. Just a fantastic sounding album. I love the feature from Lianne La Havas, and yeah, I think this is just a really beautiful neo soul album that's straight from the heart, and, you know, got a lot of real feelings in there. Number 58, For Only by Lee High. You know, when I recommended this album initially, I described it as being very humble. And what I mean by that is that it's just a very simple, easy to get into album. Lee High is just a very captivating vocalist, and, you know, this is just a nice mix of all these kind of different sort of songs that all really, you know, work in her favor. And I love the more, you know, disco style pop song. I think Red Lipstick is an absolute banger, and Only One is probably the most beautiful K-pop ballad I heard all year. Just so moving. Go watch the music video and bawl your eyes out. It's a good time. 57, See Through by Kumi Takahara. You know, this is just some wonderful ambient kind of classical music. Just really beautiful arrangements, really beautiful pieces. You know, if you love that kind of Joe Hisaishi Studio Ghibli sound, or if I've ever gotten into any Ryuichi Sakamoto or more recently Ichiko Aoba stuff, this is certainly up your alley. But just, you know, some really beautiful moving ambient music to really you know, to work for any kind of meditation, or if you just need to unwind or relax, or just, you know, really calm your mind. This is just you know, an absolutely ornate album. Yeah, really gorgeous. Alrighty, at number 56, Any Shape You Take by Indigo D'Souza. And man, can you feel the emotions in this album? What a solid indie rock album with, you know, some fun kind of indie pop touches here and there. But my favorite moments of the album are just the totally rockin' moments. She really delivers some really great punchy moments. Just a lot of really fun, solid indie rock on this one. Super badass, super fun, just, you know, really, really memorable all around, and a great listen. At number 55, To See the Next Part of the Dream by Paranul, the breakout anonymous shoegaze star from Korea. I thought this was a really cool album. I love the extremely lo-fi sound, and it's not like lo-fi where it was recorded in a nice studio with a whole bunch of vintage gear, but more so like really crappy garage band digital lo-fi sound. Like, it actually sounds very cheaply made and poorly mixed, but the feelings are just so strong in this album. I love the reflections of dealing with depression and low self-esteem, and that you really kind of you really do feel this album. It's very moving for sure, and that's what shoegaze is all about, is just evoking that those really expressive melancholic feelings, and this one does it well with just that great wall of noise. And I think seeing where this album came from as just some student who was really fed up with life, and seeing all of his influences, I really vibe with this album, especially since he mentioned he was influenced by the anime Welcome to the NHK, which is one of my favorite anime series. And as soon as I read that and listened to this album, I'm like, okay, I get where you're coming from. I get what you're feeling, what you're trying to express, and I think he certainly achieved that. All right, at number 54, A Tear in the Fabric of Life by Knocked Loose. I've been enjoying, I enjoyed the last Knocked Loose album, and I think this one is very, very rock solid. Just such great, awesome, satisfying breakdowns. No BS, not messing around with any of that dubstep metal stuff, not trying to throw in fake ass bass drops. This is just some, real heavy, awesome riffs, just so dark and satisfying. This is a metal album that you feel in your bones, and it's nice. This is a bone rattling metal album, and it is so satisfying. It really kind of taps into those just feelings of anger, and it's great. Alrighty, at number 53, Navy's Reprise by Navy Blue. Navy Blue has been killing it lately. His album last year was fantastic, and this is just another really great hip-hop album. And as a producer, he's absolutely killing it. The other albums that he produced this year were all fantastic, and this is just another great, I was talking about it before, just another great real hip-hop album. This is just solid, no nonsense, just return to the basics, just focusing really on that flow and lyricism and expression and making really meaningful rap music. This is just really great departure from that mainstream rap that we kind of got unloaded on us in the latter half of the last decade. And I think this is kind of with Earl Sweatshirt and Griselda and all these other people that Navy Blue's producing, this is just a great kind of hip-hop renaissance. I think that's certainly not a stretch to say. Awesome. Number 52, Valentine by Snail Mail. I think Snail Mail is just a wonderful vocalist. She's so passionate. She's just so much fun to listen to. And I like how this album, feels more alive. She's experimenting with more different sounds. It's more fun to listen to. There's some fun kind of upbeat, more 80s pop kind of stuff, and still has that kind of indie folk, indie pop charm. She kills it through all of it. I think she's just one of those artists that is just great to spend time with no matter what they're doing. And speaking of which, at number 51, we got Call Me If You Get Lost by Tyler, the Creator. After making these two kind of crazy genre-bending masterpieces, in my opinion, it's great to hear Tyler just put out a rap album, and I love that. And I love all the feats. I love that this is just really a focus on making more solid hip hop. If I could critique Flower Boy and Igor a bit, I would say that there's just not enough rapping on it, and this one is very satisfying in that we get to hear Tyler rap a lot, and his lyrics are great. There's it's certainly a bit of a messy album, but if you're a Tyler fan and you want to hear, a return to a more hip-hop focused album, then this is a very satisfying listen. At number 50, Ignorance by The Weather Station. Another very fantastic indie kind of folk listen. I think The Weather Station has a really nice voice. It's kind of this bassy, almost a little monotone voice that has kind of this 80s pop feel to it. And this is just a really moving, very tight album. Really great, singer-songwriter album, and also just really fantastic with all the other arrangements. Really cool drumming, all around very solid indie album. And I think she's a fantastic vocalist as well. Some really cool expressions and storytelling, really great lyrics. Just a fantastic album to listen to. At number 49, Uneasy by VJ Ayer, Linda May Han O, and Tashawn Sori. This is just as rock solid as jazz trios get. They are absolutely killing it. I think VJ Ayer is such a great composer in that his compositions have this kind of almost like fantasy element to them. It's almost like reminds me a bit of Ryuichi Sakamoto in that sense, in that he's kind of taking you to another world with his compositions, which is really cool. But also just the chemistry between these three is fantastic, and they are just absolutely killing it, shredding it. This is just some real jazz, so solid, just so impressive that people can be that good at their instruments. Fantastic. All right, at number 48, Star-Crossed by Kacey Musgraves. I was a huge fan of Golden Hour, and I was very much looking forward to Kacey Musgraves' next album, and I think this is a cool progression. I think it's cool that she kind of drifted away from country more towards her indie fan base. And I think this is a really cool album that focuses on her divorce, which seemed a little odd for Kacey Musgraves as someone who kind of, expresses overwhelming positivity. But also I found on Golden Hour, one thing I really liked about it is just how real she is, how she tries to paint things not as she thinks they should be, but as they are, like a track Happy and Sad, where she talks about how every time you feel happy, you're inevitably gonna fall back down into some sadness, and how being happy isn't without some sadness because of that, and that you sometimes can't really enjoy the good times knowing that there's bad times coming. And I think that this album is cool in that it's all about the bad times, and it's a very mature kind of post-breakup divorce album, and she's very real, and there's some very real observations on this one. Just how she has a lot of humility. She's thinking about what she could have done better in the situation. She's not entirely petty, not entirely blaming the other person, although there's a lot of pettiness on this album, and certainly doesn't paint her ex-husband always too kindly, but a very moving and interesting album with some really cool psychedelic production in there as well. I think Kacey's awesome. Yeah, this is great. Alrighty, at number 47, Absolutely by Dijon. What a solid kind of R&B, more raw kind of rock album. I'm not really sure exactly how to describe this, but it's just a a great album in that it makes you feel like you're in the room with them. And I think they really wanted to have that warm and intimate quality to this album. And from what I briefly read about it was that it was recorded, over a short amount of time with a whole bunch of collaborators coming by into a house or something that he was in, and it was all recorded kind of on the spot in single takes and stuff. And you definitely get that very kind of, live off the floor, raw feel. And it's very fun to listen to in that, but also just really solid songwriting, amazing vocals. Just, it really feels like you're there with them in the moment. And it's quite nice because of that. Number 46, Music Life by Mia Doi Todd. This is a really cool album. It's so dorky, but I love it. And I think it's just a really cool kind of spoken word poetry vocal album with, every song kind of has a feel to it. There's like a lot of different global kind of influences in each song, and the production is fantastic. It's so tightly produced and just so solid sounding, but also just it's a very kind of nerdy album to like. It's certainly not something you're going to be playing at parties and stuff, or maybe you will, but it's a very, very memorable album for sure for me. I liked this one a lot. Okay, number 45, The House is Burning by Isaiah Rashad. The highly, highly anticipated album from Isaiah came to us this year, and it's everything that, I thought you would have wanted it to be. It's got that really cool jazzy sound to Isaiah's work, but he's not, full on over to that side. He's kind of somewhere in the middle where it's still a little bit trappy, a little bit of that high energy. And I think he really does that middle ground between, the really jazzy side of hip hop and the more, mainstream pop side of it. I think this is a really cool kind of hybrid album in that respect. And again, really solid production, really fun, and just overall great time. Alrighty, at number 44, Tread by Ross from Friends. Just rock solid electronic album. Really, really cool driving long album with a lot of purpose to it. It doesn't meander, it doesn't feel like it's wasting your time. Every beat just feels very focused, and it's impressive for an album that's nearly an hour long. I think this shows a lot of promise from the producer, who's still pretty early in the game, and I think this is just a really solid, ambitious album, and he totally kills it. And number 43, Yellow River Blue by Yusu. Just a really fantastic kind of tropical sort of jungle influenced electronic album. Really cool. A lot of really cool kind of dub bass in this album. A lot of fun to listen to, and some really powerful kind of ambient tracks in there as well. Super funky, super driving. Again, like I said, this one fits in quite well with Tread by Ross and Friends, in that they both feel like, they're just very solid. There's no tracks that I really dislike on either of those albums. They're very solid albums from front to back, and I think they're really great at kind of creating that space that you want to spend time in, because in electronic music you tend to spend quite a lot of time in each space or each song, and the repetitive meditative aspect is done quite well. At number 42, Savage by aespa. aespa's had a hell of a year with Next Level, and then their debut mini album. And you know, I think they're great. I think, as you know, that pioneering hyper pop K-pop group really pushing the button forward and just going for it, I think is great. And I dig their vibe. I think they're a lot of fun. And you know, Savage is totally solid, and it's really fun. Alright, at number 41, Summer Queen by Brave Girls. You know, what a great, memorable story that Brave Girls have had from 2021, where they were, you know, on the brink of disbandment, so close to calling it quits, and then thanks to a viral video explaining their popularity among the South Korean military, they just blew up overnight, basically, with a single from 2017, Rollin'. And you know, I really enjoyed Rollin', even though it's, you know, not the most sophisticated song by any means, but it's a lot of fun. And you know, it's you know, like, you know what it is. It's not music meant to be meant to overthink, but it's fantastic. And you know, I was prepared for Summer Queen to not really be that strong of an album. I didn't, you know, have my hopes up for it, but when I turned it on, I was just like, this is great. This is just a really fun kind of tropical house EDM inspired pop music. Like, this is just so much fun from front to back, and they really nail it. And Chimat Biram, I think, is a lot more solid even than Rollin', and it's kind of does everything I like about Rollin', but a little bit better. And I think the city pop kind of influence in these songs is great. And you know, it's just a great time. I like Brave Girls, and I'm excited that they were resuscitated from that dire situation. And already at number 40, Talk Memory by Bad Bad Not Good. You know, they've been around for quite a while, and I think this is a very solid, ambitious effort from them, in that they wanted to make a very old school kind of instrumental, funky kind of maybe a little bit of disco in there, 70s inspired jazz album, and it is so solid. It's by far my favorite work from them. I think this is just such a beautiful sounding album, has so much of that great vintage 70s tone in there. I love the wall of sound. I love those funky break beats on the drums, and just the string arrangements are totally beautiful. You know, just what a wonderful instrumental album is all I can say. It's just, this album makes you feel good. Number 39, Don't Go Telling Your Mama by Topaz Jones. You know, if you like that classic early Kanye sound, or if you're into Saba or any hip hop like that, this is totally up your alley. I think this is just a fantastic, funky, well-produced hip hop album. Just really great lyrics, really great soulful, honest lyricism. Yeah, just a very solid, very moving album. Alrighty, at number 38, Public Storage by Hannah Vu. You know, I like Hannah Vu. I think this is a really solid indie rock album. Just really great songwriting, really fantastically produced. And yeah, I think she's very solid. Yeah, don't have too much more to say beyond that. Number 37, Far In by Helado Negro. You know, I was greatly anticipating Helado Negro's next work. I was a big fan of his last album, This Is How You Smile. And I think that this is cool in that he put out a more loose, open, longer album to follow that up with. It's a lot of the really solid production that I love from him, and just that really great, calming, experimental sound. And there's some really beautiful moments, some really, really moving tracks on here. Just so beautiful overall. He's just so great at creating those really powerful, striking moments. Alrighty, at number 36, Spiral by Darkside. If you liked the last Darkside album, if you like Nicholas Jar, you are gonna like this album. It is fantastic. It has so much of that cool kind of electronic ambient blues style. I love the kind of guitar-driven sort of concept with Darkside. I think they're a really cool group, and this is just more of them doing what they do best. Okay, number 35, Ultra Pop by The Armed, and what a cool, awesomely unique album. This is just a super noisy, super loud, super heavy metal album that is just bursting with this positive energy. It is just such a overwhelmingly angry exertion of happiness is all I can say. It's just it's so much fun. It's such a satisfying listen. It's so strange in that it doesn't seem like it should work as well as it does, but this is it's fantastic. It's so tight. So, particularly the drumming and the bass playing is just, they're shredding. They're killing it on this album. They're just going for it, sounding like they're all just, had so much cocaine that they're on another planet, just going all over the place. But it's just such a fun, energetic, heavy album, and it's there's really nothing quite like it. Number 34, Queendom by Red Velvet. This is the year that Red Velvet finally came back from their relatively long hiatus, and I think this is a really wonderful return from them. They do a lot of that cool experimental pop, kind of groovy, more R&B influenced stuff that they do so well. I think Red Velvet's awesome. I think they have so much great music in their back catalog, and this just really adds to that so well. Also, the Hello Sunset, like, come on, that song sounds like it was produced by Steve Lacy. Like, it's so cool. Just such great instrumentals and production that you would expect from Red Velvet. I think this is a solid mini album and a very memorable one as well. All right, at number 33, Flower Arrangement by Mrs Jynx, and this is a really cool deep cut. There's some really interesting kind of experimental neo soul going on in this album. Just really cool from the relatively unheard of South Korean producer. This is some really cool kind of like Frank Ocean sort of stuff going on in here, but also just reminds me of New Jabez in that it's a really wonderful collaboration of so many underground Korean indie artists kind of getting together and making this really beautiful, moving album. And it's really a testament to the artist's creative vision, and they had that vision and they stuck to it, and they were able to convey that to all of the collaborators involved, and that's not an easy thing to do, and I think this one is very well executed. All right, number 32, Moving Days by Homecomings. Just really fantastic indie rock. Such a beautiful, simple, easy to listen to album. I really loved how just vibey and easy this album is. If you like Real Estate or bands like that, I think you could really get down with that, even though if you haven't listened to a whole lot of Japanese music before. I think Homecomings is a really good band, and this is just really well produced, really nice to listen to kind of album. 31, Jubilee by Japanese Breakfast. What an extravagant kind of mix of all these different things. Just a really beautiful, solid album overall with some really, just a lot of really honest and heartfelt feelings on this album. Wonderful expressions, but I just love the the sense of dynamics in it, how it's, you know, a more disco influenced track, and then we get some really beautiful string arrangements and some kind of ballads in there. It's just a really fun mix of things, and I think this is a very ambitious album, and Michels Honor definitely pulled it off very well. All right, at number 30, Lilac by IU. If you don't know IU, she is a total powerhouse. She is, you know, undisputably one of the most successful South Korean female vocalists, and she's been absolutely crushing it for years. I like this kind of push toward a more disco pop direction with her music, and obviously we get those powerhouse vocal ballads that are just so killing it. You know, that's why she's number one, is that she can really nail those vocals. And you know, a nice kind of range of things. I thought this is a very pleasant album. I thought Celebrity was really kind of a nice single. I like that one. It kind of gives me Sorry Justin Bieber vibes, but, you know, in a good way. And yeah, you know, can't go wrong with IU. I think she's fantastic. And yeah. Alrighty, at number 29, 20 Stop It by Kid Frisino. There's so much cool Japanese hip-hop going on right now, and people are paying attention to none of it. And I think this is particularly a really interesting album that people should be paying more attention to. Some really cool production and songwriting, fantastic verses from Kid Frisino. You know, these are just really awesome kind of explorative, pushing the boundaries of hip hop. Some really cool stuff going on this album. Yeah, I think there's a lot of really cool ideas, a lot of cool boundary pushing stuff, pushing the button. You know, I love the guest vocals from Ayano Kaneko on that one track. I think she's great. Spoiler alert, you're gonna hear about her a little more coming up, but yeah, 20 Stop It by Kid Frisino, very solid hip-hop album. I really recommend that one. At number 28, Mandatory Enjoyment by Dummy. I think this is a very cool kind of psychedelic ambient rock album. I love how there's a lot of space left open for these grooves in this album. It's very meditative, very nice. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Deer Hunter, but, you know, very well executed, very well produced, great tones happening. And yeah, I think it's cool how they kind of wet their feet into some more new age ambient synthy kind of territory. It's quite cool, and yeah, looking forward to more from them. All right, at 27, Fire by The Bug, and what a cool idea for an album. Is the first thing I can say is to make this really dark, doomy electronic album and involve all of these vocalists, you know, from more of the dance hall and reggae world into this really unique, interesting piece of music that's all just about doom and the world ending and dying and stuff like that. And I love the darkness of it, and I love just the energy of it. It's always kind of bumping and keeping you going, and yeah, I just think this album is so much fun. It's so cool, such an interesting idea. Yeah, really well done. Yeah, I like this one. Number 26, Mercurial World by Magdalena Bay. Wow, what a solidly produced dance kind of indie pop album. From front to back, this album is just so solid, so enjoyable, so dancey. There's so many bands that sound like this but don't quite put out records as solid, and this album is so ambitious and long for a record like that, but really does have that fun, positive dance energy to it, and they do it quite well. At number 25, Collapsed in Sunbeams by Arlo Parks. You know, what a gorgeous album overall. Just the first thing I would notice about it is those guitar tones that sound straight out of In Rainbows are just so beautiful. And Arlo Parks is just a wonderful storyteller. Her vocals are fantastic, and I love her lyrics, her reflections. They sound so honest and genuine. And, you know, she brings up a lot of really interesting subject matter, but keeps it really personal. And I thought that this is a really easy album to connect with because of that. At number 23, Untourable Album by Men I Trust. What a groggy album. This is just a mood right here. Like, sometimes you just feel so like dizzy or hungover or low energy, and this is just the album for that. This is just the groggy feeling album, and it's, you know, got some poppy kind of feel good synthy stuff on there, but it's just it's got that mood, and it's nice. And yeah, it's just when you're feeling that vibe of just that groggy kind of, you know, sludgy, slow vibe, this one is quite well done in that regard. It just really does a good job of just capturing when you don't feel like doing nothing, just lazing around, and your head is kind of all jumbled up and full of sludge. Number 23, Alpha by Charlotte Day Wilson. You know, just another very beautiful album. She's a really incredible vocalist, and there's some really cool arrangements on this album. You know, album highlight Mountains. What a jaw-dropping, incredible track right there. But yeah, just overall a really, you know, beautiful, kind of dark, heartbreaking album, but also just, you know, really taps into some real feelings, and it's really, really nice album. Number 22, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert by Little Simz. Another very hotly anticipated album of the year. I think that this is a really cool album, really incredible writing, incredible lyricism, such great honest reflections, such great hip-hop lyricism. Like, this is just a masterclass in how to write good hip-hop lyrics. It's just really pour your heart out onto the page and just really express some incredible things. I feel like on this album she's telling me things that she's never told anybody before, and it's just so beautiful, and also quite an ambitious album, which, you know, to be honest, I don't feel always worked, but, you know, this is so easy to look past because of how strong she is as an MC. Yeah, Little Simz just absolutely crushes it. She is a world-class rapper. Just, you know, she's a total natural. She means business, and she crushed it. Alrighty, number 21, Mood Valiant by Hiatus Kaiyote. You know, another hotly anticipated one. Hiatus Kaiyote's first album in quite a while, and this one really lived up to expectations and beyond. I think this is some of their strongest work to date, really highlights all of their strengths. Napalm sounds fantastic. It's full of that kind of psychedelic, weird charm that she does so well, and just they're, you know, incredible musicians. They're an incredible band. They play so well together. They have so much chemistry. Like, the keys, the bass playing, the drumming is just all at that level. And then Napalm is just a fantastic front person. And yeah, this is a really solid album. I think it's kind of cool that since they signed to Brainfeeder on this one, it certainly has that kind of Flying Lotus sort of feel to it, a little bit of that trip hop energy, but you know, really solid indie kind of neo soul jazz album. Yeah, again, just very unique, feels very personalized, feels like a Hiatus Kaiyote album in the best way possible. At number 20, Half God by Wiki. I was talking about Navy Blue earlier and some of the stuff that he produced. Well, here's another album produced by Navy Blue that is just absolutely incredible. The rapping is phenomenal on this album. It's just bar after bar of, you know, just incredible lyrics and flow, and just, again, just solid, you know, hip hop as it's meant to be. This is just really classic, great sounding hip hop, and Navy Blue's killing it as a producer. Just those really subtle beats that really allow the MC to shine, and you know, some really cool subject matter as well about New York City and, you know, anti-gentrification themes, and a lot of you know, interesting ideas of it being kind of an ode to where he came from and where he grew up, and, you know, what he's sad about seeing going away or fading away about his city. And you know, it's quite an interesting album in that regard as well. And yeah, very solid. Number 19, I Know I'm Funny, Haha, by Faye Webster. You know, what a solid singer-songwriter, kind of country, indie pop album. Such solid instrumentals. This album is funny and it's quirky, but it's just equally as tight. The songwriting, the production, the performances, everything is just so rock solid, and she is just, you know, so expressive with her vocals and has that kind of quirky goofball charm to it, but she's never obnoxious. She's always, you know, when she gets going and starts expressing some real feelings, it's very moving. And, you know, I think it's funny that she can make you laugh and cry. At number 18, 1 Out of 6 by Sunmi. I think Sunmi is awesome. She is such a great powerhouse pop star. She's one of my favorite K-pop soloists by far. She has such a cool style, this really great alternative concept and energy that she brings to anything. And this is just a really great personalized pop album. You know, Sunny's such a banger. I love You Can't Sit With Us. But again, this has a really nice personal touch to it. You know, before this album came out, Sunmi revealed that she suffers from borderline personality disorder, and I thought that the way she tackles those themes and expresses it in this album is really quite interesting and captivating. You know, this album is quite constantly tackling what identity means. Who are you? Are you good? Are you bad? What kind of person are you? Who am I really? And I think that it kind of expresses that inner torment that goes into your mind when you're trying to express your personality, and you know, how that can be really difficult for some people. And I thought that this was a really cool pop album. Number 17, Between Isekai and Slice of Life by Miho Hattori. Yeah, the name alone is pretty great, in that Isekai is a genre of anime where you are transported to another world, and Slice of Life is just regular everyday life. So it's somewhere between that, which is a great album name, but really fantastic album. I love artists that are able to reinvent themselves, you know, relatively later in their career. Miho Hattori was first in the 90s part of a J-pop group called Chibo Mato, which put out quite a few albums and, you know, garnered a lot of popularity. And I think it's cool that she's still experimenting so much later and pushing the button and making a really cool experimental kind of hyper pop electronic album. And there's a lot of fun playfulness to this. Just all around really cool album. Miho Hattori is so cool and awesome, and yeah, I think this is just a really fun, awesome experimental album. Number 16, Windy by Jun Soyeon. Soyeon of Gidol gave us this solo mini album, and you know what? I think this is just so much fun. Of all of, you know, the girl crush kind of hip-hop influenced K-pop stars, I think Soyeon is awesome. I think she's so much fun. There's so much kind of quirky personality in this album. It's just really unique. I don't think there's anybody quite like Soyeon. I like how she's doing it her way. She's not really trying to be cool or trendy either. Like Beam Beam is like sounds like a Smash Mouth song, and then you got all these other kind of songs that, you know, maybe have this kind of jazzy Amy Winehouse feel. It's almost like a little dorky, but like her rapping is awesome, and just feels, you know, really personalized, really unique, really fun, got a really great energy to it. And yeah, I like Soyeon. Like, come on, like, is this bad bitch number? Like, that's awesome. It's so much fun, and yeah, I really want to see more from her, because I think she's just so much fun and just has such great creative energy. At number 15, The Book by YOASOBI. YOASOBI took over the J-pop world this year by making just immaculate J-pop with these really kind of dark personal lyrics about, you know, mental health and you know, struggling with depression, and some really heavy themes, and you know, kind of contrasting that with these really great kind of sad disco J-pop songs. And this is why we listen to J-pop. This is just, you know, immaculate J-pop that sounds kind of corny and dated, but in a good way. This is like what people want to hear, and I think that's really the root of YOASOBI's you know, appeal, is that they just tap into something that people already like, and they're fantastic. And you know, I just love the raw emotion in this album, and just the simple production, and everything is just, it's so just well done. You know, this is that J-pop that I like, and you know, it's great. Number 14, Hybrid 1 by Alva Nodo. You know, I certainly am a fan of Alva Nodo's work, particularly his work with Ryuichi Sakamoto, and this is just a fantastic ambient drone album. It's kind of groovy at times. It takes you on this whole journey, and just as a one continuous listen flows so well. It's such a good ambient drone album to get you in the zone, and it just it's kind of dark, and it's emotional, and it's just, you know, really well executed ambient music with a lot of purpose, and just very, very sharply produced and really well done. Number 13, Hello by Joy of Red Velvet. I talked about Red Velvet not long ago, and you know what? I think this is such a cool album in that Joy uses this opportunity of her solo album to just, you know, make a totally awesome 90s throwback K-pop album. I love the vintage kind of corny feel of this album. It, you know, has that really classic vibe to it, and just the production is so solid. Oh, and just her vocals are fantastic, and I think it's cool that Red Velvet is always so edgy and pushing the button, and then she kind of uses her solo album as a chance to pay tribute to, you know, what came before her and the music that she grew up with and fell in love with in the first place. And it's just so solid. Yeah, I think this album is just a really cool, unique throwback, and it's just impossible not to put a smile on your face. It's so great. Number 12, Agor by Corylus. Just a really cool experimental electronic album, really creating a lot out of these really small moments and making a very captivating experience just with all these really cool loops and making beats out of synths that are, you know, might be a little unconventional, if that makes sense. Really hard to explain other than saying that this is just a really cool journey. I love hearing music that sounds like nothing I've ever heard before, and this is just a really cool experimental journey. At number 11, Entertainment Death by Spirit of the Beehive. This album is totally bonkers. It's totally crazy. It's a complete mess, but in a great way. This album is so hard to follow, even after multiple playthroughs. It's so hard to remember what came after what. It's just, you know, as soon as you get used to something, it just suddenly cuts in onto the next thing. But it's so cool. It's actually very beautiful. I was, you know, expecting a lot of kind of obnoxious, noisy, experimental stuff before I listened to it, and that's not what this album is at all. It's actually really beautiful. There's some really wonderful ambient moments. There's some really captivating indie rock, you know, comparable to any of the big indie rock bands of this day, but they are just, you know, too much of a vibe to give in to making just straight up indie rock songs. They have to keep it weird, and I respect that. I think this is a super cool, memorable album. Number 10, Querencia by Chung Ha. You know, when I first reviewed this album earlier this year, I gave it a pretty positive review, and every time I've gone back to it since, to be honest, I've liked it even more. This is just a really solid, powerful pop album. Chung Ha really killed it on this. You know, I don't think there's any song in particular that I really absolutely love, but overall, I think this is a really solid album from front to back. I love the ballads. I love the dancey, kind of more EDM inspired songs. I think the whole Latin, you know, music concept is really cool. And Chung Ha just kills it. This is just a, you know, rock solid, fantastic pop album comparable to any of the big, you know, pop stars of this day. Yeah, I think this is a really solid album, and I think anybody that, you know, seriously enjoys pop music should give this one a listen. At number 9, Secret Garden by Yves and Mrs Jynx. Such a cool, timeless, you know, electronic album. I love the beats on here that sound kind of early 2000s and has this kind of, you know, light corniness, you know, nowhere near the album I talked about earlier, Crystal by, or Reflection Overdrive by Crystal, but, you know, certainly has that little bit of a corny edge to it, but it's you know, really fun kind of cyberpunk feel, has that, you know, old school kind of video game feel to it as well, and just a really solid, you know, electronic production, and just a total vibe, really enjoyable from front to back. And you know, I could easily listen to this album many times over, just because I love the whole journey of it. I love how it gets dark, it gets brighter, it gets a little bit more dancey. Just a wonderful journey overall, and just a great electronic album. At number 8, we got Taste of Love, Perfect World, and Formula of Love by Twice. That's 3 albums, but Twice totally deserved it. At number 8, I'm dedicating it to Twice's combined output over 2021, because they have been absolutely on fire. Every time I feel like, oh my god, they've given us so much, they're gonna take a break, I'm okay waiting for more, they just keep coming back with more and more. The Twice fans are some of the most well-fed fans of any pop fandom. Like, you can't argue with their results. Like, they just keep putting out album after album of quality pop music, you know, with these great singles. Alcohol Free, Scientist are wonderful bangers with some amazing B-sides. 4-Leaf Clover is such a banger. I love Cruel. There's so many great little tracks, you know, hidden that you forget about so quickly because they drop another album right after that. You know, Twice is just the hardest working pop group in the world. You can't undermine their effort and just how they have been so tireless in feeding their fan base. And, you know, I can't not respect that. I think their hustle is so admirable. I think they're crushing it. I think they are the hardest working pop group in the world. And yeah, just fantastic releases. They have easily won me over just with the amount of work that they put out, and I look forward to more and more Twice, just because it doesn't seem like they're slowing down anytime soon. All right, at number 7, Tokyo Hakai by iLLUMINAti. What an awesome kind of industrial electronic experimental album. For anybody that's a Grimes fan, I certainly recommend this one to you. I think this is a really cool album. Really fun, really playful, but also really dark. Builds to some really beautiful moments, but again, just really dark and industrial, and yeah, I think it's got a really cool vibe. And yeah, I dig iLLUMINAti. I'd never heard of her before this album, but yeah, I think she's got an awesome vibe, and this is just a really solid album from front to back. Great production, great ideas, and really brings you into her kind of weird and wacky world. Alrighty, at number 6, Floating Mountains by Soshi Takeda. I loved this album right off the bat. It's totally up my alley. Just, you know, give me a groovy, minimal techno album with a lot of that kind of retro video game charm. And, you know, just the ambient moments are wonderful. It's just a really great album to just get you in the zone, to keep you bumping. Fantastic overall. Very little to dislike about this album. Yeah, just, you know, wonderful, groovy techno album. So much of what I like about electronic music is in this album, and just, you know, a lot of great expressive feelings, and just really transports you to another world. I can enjoy this album any hour of the day, any day of the week. Number 5, we're getting there. At number 5 is Ghost Album by Temple A. This album is also bonkers. It's so weird, it's so tripped out, but they do it so well. You know, this album is so beautiful, but it's also so crazy and trippy. It's so tight. It's a fantastic psych rock album. It's, you know, got this wonderful influence from minyo, traditional Japanese folk music. You know, kind of makes me think of the yokai, or you know, those a lot of traditional Japanese folklore. It's you know, got a lot of interesting, you know, inspiration coming from it, and just you know, really tight overall, really great jams. I think Temple A is such a solid band, and there's some really cool songwriting on this, and just so tight from front to back. I think this is a fantastic psych rock album. Number 4, Yosuga by Ayano Kaneko. Just another artist that I can just listen to for hours, no matter what she does. She's just such a fantastic performer. Gives us such wonderful music. Her music is so easy to listen to because of just how passionate her vocals are. I love how she just kind of belts it loud and proud. I, you know, easily like everything she's put out, and I think this album is some of her best work. Has some really great kind of almost kind of expressions of these depressive feelings, but also this like exuding kind of energy of just persevering, of fighting it all, of just, you know, really getting through it. And I think that the arrangements are absolutely just, you know, ornate and just so, you know, well put together. Such wonderful sounds, whether it's, you know, like an accordion here and there, or, you know, a glockenspiel, or just you know, whatever cool ideas in the production really work on this album. Just I love the sound of all of the real instruments and just all of the work that went into the sound of this album. It's so well done, and I think Ayano Kaneko is such a gem. I think she's fantastic, and this is just a wonderful, you know, tribute to all of her efforts. And I love the solo version of this album as well. I like how there's an entirely solo version of the whole album, and I love that I have both of them because this is just a fantastic album. At number 3, Hey What by Low. You know, Low has been such an awesome boundary pushing band for years, decades even, and this is a fantastic, you know, album. I talked earlier about artists that kind of reinvent themselves later in their career, and this is certainly an example of that. Low gives us this speaker blasting folk country album that is so minimal but so maximal at the same time. There's such heavy chunky tones that there doesn't need to be any drums or really any other arrangements other than that. And man, the vocals are darn angelic. Like, the vocals are fantastic. I love just the sound of you know, their chants, and just you know, what a great kind of folk album also, but also these really intense, you know, really overwhelmingly positive album. This album really brings a very unique kind of peace, and I think that's what's so cool about it. You know, just so interesting and unique and fantastic. Low is a great band, and yeah, this is just another masterpiece from them. At number 2, we got MS by Mamiko Suzuki. You know, I'm a big Chelmico fan. I've been listening to them for years, and I think Mamiko is wonderful rapper. She has such a great personality, and I could have not been more excited for her full-length solo debut, and this album really, you know, delivered on that front. I think this album contains everything I like about Mamiko Suzuki. She's a fantastic vocalist. She has such great ideas. I love her love of hip-hop and, you know, more minimal music, her love of jazz and bossa nova, and it just all comes together in this album so nicely. This album is so unique, so personalized. It sounds like nobody else could have made it, and that's what I really love about it. I think she's got such a wonderful personality that really shines on this album. It's so beautiful, just so many beautiful moments on it. Just, you know, she's such a captivating vocalist, and I love the production. The sound of the bass playing on this. You know, a lot of the mainstay Chelmico producers were involved in this one, and they just absolutely crushed it and were totally down with the vibe of this album. I love the jazzy feel. I love the minimal beats. You know, that duet with Yeti is just the most wholesome thing ever. Just, you know, what a great ode to friendship. What a fantastic feat. You know, I've known that those two have been friends for a long time, so it's great to finally hear a collab between them. But, you know, just a really beautiful album, and, you know, I am excited for more Chelmico, and I'm excited for more Mamiko, and I think she's great, and I couldn't recommend this album enough. I think everybody can like it. And at my number... I give it... Life is a Bee by BB. I really like BB. I think she's had a fantastic year, and I just, you know, more and more think that Life is a Bee is such a cool album. I think it's just so beautiful. I think it's so cool that she was this up and coming, you know, underground K-pop star who, you know, really was, you know, more and more being discovered by the major scene, and then used her big moment to tell, you know, a very serious story about surviving an abusive relationship and dealing with depression and some really dark feelings. And, you know, this isn't the album that you would expect someone in her position would give, but it's so commendable that she did it, because I think this is just a wonderful, beautiful, heartbreaking album, and I really connected and empathized with BB, and just the sadness in this album really got me. And more than any other album this year, this one really struck an emotional chord with me. And, you know, there can be really well produced albums, there can be really impressively performed albums, but just if something can, you know, cut straight to my heart like this album did, nothing really compares to that. And I just again think this is such a beautiful expression, and I think the production is fantastic, and I think BB is a fantastic vocalist, and I think it's cool that after this album came out, she went on to deliver, you know, a lot of really fun pop singles. But I'm really glad that she took the time to make this album and put it out and get her story out there, because after that, seeing her as a pop star, I feel like I know her so much better, and I, you know, vibe with where she's coming from, and I, you know, have that connection with her as an artist. And if she hadn't put out this album, I probably wouldn't be as interested in her, even though I really liked her before it. I just, you know, I really have that emotional connection to her music, and I think it's just a beautiful album that I can't recommend enough to fans of Korean music or non. I think this is just a wonderful, overall wonderful short album that really says so much in such a short time frame. You know, beautiful, very deserving of the #1 spot. And there we go. That's 100 albums from me to you. I recommend them all. I think this has been a really great year of listening to music, and I'm excited for another one. And, you know, if you made it all the way through to the end, thank you. I hope that, you know, I entertained you in some sort of way, or that you know, got some good recommendations. Maybe you'll find something that you like. And, you know, if there's any albums that you think I missed, you think I slept on, you think that should have been included, let me know down below in the comments. Or if, you know, you have any thoughts, anything to add to my my ramblings, feel free to add those as well. And you know, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching, and you take it easy.